I have grave concerns here at Welford Road Cemetery in Leicester, England. Looks like Leicester, but pronounced Leicester. And this Welford Road Cemetery, I first spotted it coming into the city on the train. You can see it, the tracks go right alongside. And I thought, well, that one's looking pretty impressive. I better go check that out. You could see all these great trees. The English are really great about the tree thing, I have to say. Everywhere I go, there's just a lot of really nice old trees that are in good health. And just an abundance of trees in general. So that's the first part of the appeal. The second is just all these very cool looking Victorian stones. Just the layout, it's a great looking Victorian graveyard. It's got that classic kind of Charles Dickens ghostly quality. It would be great at night, of course. And just, you can see the angles on all these stones. Every one of them's at a slightly different angle. This was founded in the 1840s. As is often the case with these cemeteries, they run out of space in the churchyards, and with the population boom from industrialization, they needed to set aside land. And this little space is south of the city center. I'm staying in the city center. It took me about 20 minutes to walk here. And the northern part of it, which I think let me think here. Well, no, I guess I'm in the southern part. Northern part is for Church of England burials, and the southern part is for all others. Just stop and take a look at one here. Thomas Friedrich Sarsen. (1911). So yeah, there is also, of course, World War I and World War II history here. But initially, a 19th century graveyard. And I'm enjoying the layout so far, these little winding trails that I've been on. And again, we talk about just fantastic trees. Look at this thing. Some beautiful ivy here. There's a broken stone, but I have to say not too many so far. Here we even have a little informational about Leicester Cathedral headstones. They were originally in the grounds of the Leicester Cathedral. Major improvements between 2012 and 2014. Okay, so that's what these are. I might as well just get on the other side and take a look. The wind's kicking up. These are pretty worn. Yeah, this makes sense because I was there yesterday and these look pretty similar in style. 1817, so predating the cemetery. So I don't think there are any bodies here, just stones. That area around the cathedral is pretty rough. It's an interesting problem. The town itself is rough in its own way. It's a very, very strange place. It's beautiful. It has wonderful historic buildings. The city center is sparkling clean. It's like Disneyland clean. I've seen street sweepers constantly moving through. These are more cathedral burials here. I even saw them steam cleaning a sidewalk. They really keep it clean. It's spotless. But it's really dystopian in that regard, I find, because it's this beautiful, clean city with lots of open shops, lots of really nice pubs with large glass windows and stenciling. In beautiful condition. It's not like windows are all busted and it looks cheap or anything. On the contrary, it's very expensive looking. I'm a little bit out here now against Welford Road, so it's a little loud while I'm here at the southern edge. But yeah, even to the point, there's Rolex stores. There's all kinds of stuff that the regular people there can't afford. And to some degree, the regular people there, well, there's a contingent of, really rough folks who've got drug problems or what have you. There's a cool looking section here in the corner. Charles Grace. Caught my eye there in the corner. To the east here is the university. So yeah, so that's why I say dystopian, because it's super clean. It's got businesses that are running and prospering, but there's a lot of homeless and drug addicted on the streets. And it creates a really dystopian atmosphere. So, a bit odd. In any case, I think I'm seeing the guy I came here to find. If not, he's got a stone that looks a lot like it. So I did see a picture. No, this is it. Very cool. Okay, so this is a nice view, actually. Beautiful trees in the background. Beautiful stones all around. The sun is just starting to pop out. I was going to do this yesterday, but it rained all day. So here I am today with one of the town's favorite sons and somebody that I'm kind of interested in, Thomas Cook. It says, all flesh is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of our God shall stand forever. Anne Elizabeth Cook, born June 21, 1845, died November 6, 1880. Marion Cook, brother, Marianne. It's like a boy named Sue here. 1807 to 1884. That's really spelled Marianne. I'd never heard that as a man's name in the early 19th century. And Thomas Cook, father of the above. November 22nd, 1808. Died July 18, 1892. So almost 84, I guess 83. And there's a little book at the bottom that's quite worn, but pioneer of travel, founder of the world's largest travel agency, probably first executed Leicester to some borough. Produced or brought travel to millions. So yeah, that's the thing about Thomas Cook. People don't know so much anymore about the Thomas Cook Agency. It only was closed a few years ago. It went bankrupt. William Bailey next to him, kind of cool. I get distracted by the stones. Stephen Bennett next to him with the angel statue. But yeah, so they were the travel agents. So they created all these package tours, and I would say up through the 70s they were really popular. But for whatever reason, started to fade. But back in the day, if you wanted to take a tour, quite often, you'd book it with the Thomas Cook Agency. And I had a friend, call him the old man from New York City, only because he was quite old when I met him. I got to know this guy when he was like 82. He was a World War II vet. And he just died last year. Or maybe it's already been 2 years. In any case, he lived to be a solid 100. So I knew the guy for 18 years. He was quite spry and on top of his game until his very final years. And he worked for Thomas Cook after the war. Actually, I would say probably from the 50s through the 70s, or through the 50s and 60s. And then he ended up working at the UN as a travel booker. So he was like a tour guide back in the day after the war. It's a sad story, actually. After the war, his wife got killed in a car accident. And so he just went and disappeared and traveled around the world as a Cook tour guide. And when he was done with that, he took that travel experience and flipped it into a job at the UN, where he basically ran the travel booking for all the dignitaries. He'd arrange all the hotels for everybody coming to the UN in New York City. So anyway, when I think of the Thomas Cook Agency, I think of my friend in New York City, Nils, and visiting this grave here makes me think of Nils. And I was sad. Nils was still alive when the agency was dissolved. I think some hedge fund manager could have easily saved that agency, and they probably will. I'm sure it still exists as an entity on paper, and the rights to the name and all that can be bought, and maybe it'll be brought back. But that disruption is a bit of a disgrace, because that is the first major tourism agency. And if we look at the history of tourism, and this is really just an aesthetic run. Now that I've seen Thomas Cook, I'm just enjoying the aesthetics of this graveyard. But yeah, looking back, I say Thomas Cook democratized tourism, for better or for worse. He opened it up with his agency that made it easy for people to travel. But prior to that, it was really only the wealthy that were traveling on these grand tours in the early 19th century. That was the thing to do, was to go to continental Europe, explore, and with your steamer trunk, and pick up antiquities and Renaissance paintings and bring them back home and show off the spoils of your grand tour. Bit of noise down here. They're doing some landscaping. I've got the road, so I've got some audio competition here, and just to take another look. General layout here, beautiful trees. Take a look at a couple of stones here. Thomas Colson, 1885, 1880, 85, 95. Bunch of different ones on there. I'm also just gonna recenter. So yeah, so this opened it up to more people than just the grand tour. I mean, prior to that, you figure who was traveling really? It was military people going on military campaigns and all of their logistical support. And other than that, it would have been religious pilgrimage was really the main reason that people traveled. If they weren't migrating permanently from one location to another because of war or famine. Jeez, all this noise. Let's get down here. A little pigeon action. Heading over to the northern section here. So this is going to be Church of England stuff. This has quite a view as well. Let's take a look out at those beautiful trees. pasture-like. Here we have an interesting phrase coming up. Bit of a tautology. Blessed are the dead which die. Maybe there's more to it than that. Yeah, there is. Blessed are the dead which die in the Lord. Anything else? I am the resurrection. And it's going to make me work for it. What's it going to be? I am the resurrection and salvation, hope, the life. Got me on that one. William. Again, this lettering. Elhoff? 1887. William Henton. Died at Belgrave. 1895. I gotta get away from this road. It's driving me crazy. Not to mention this weed whacker. These things are so damn loud. I really can't stand them. I don't know if that's a getting old thing. I find there are certain things that people complain about of just general life issues, and weed whackers is one of them. Too much light at night, bright headlights. Edward Walker, 1903. These are just really nice looking late Victorian stones. Beautiful ivy on the tree, crosses. It's got all the aesthetics here. So yeah, I can't stand when a bunch of weed whackers, a chorus of weed whackers comes to town to do their business, and it's just loud as hell and you cannot get away from these things. I think older folks complain about that because they didn't exist back in the day. There were no weed whackers like they have, of substance in the 70s. It's an interesting one. It looks like it might have had a statue on it. Francis Patek says something about accomplished musician. Idealized to his many pupils. So, music teacher. But yeah, so I think whenever new technology comes online, older folks find it quite annoying in different ways. So that probably happens to every generation, especially at the rate at which technology is going. But sometimes it's just objectively problematic. I mean, those new LED headlights are really blinding, and maybe it's different in different countries, but in the US there seems to be no regulation. So they just keep getting brighter and more in your face, and it's dangerous. That's not just an old person thing. So, but I could say back in my day, headlights were just, analog halogen bulbs that had a warmer tone. And I will say, the headlights, like the lenses, were glass. So yeah, they were more dangerous. I guess in an accident you'd have more glass all over the road, but was that a problem? I don't think anybody ever got terribly injured by headlight glass. And that's just something I noticed because I'm constantly cleaning my headlights now, because they're plastic and they yellow over time. Another informational here, just talking about the nature, meadows and grasslands. So anyway, I keep getting sidetracked. This damn weed whacker is like in the center, so no matter where I go, I'm catching an earful. I can't even see the guy. He's got to be under a tree. Thomas Cowell, 1879. So these are Church of England. This motherfucker. It's really annoying. I like a peaceful graveyard. I don't mind, I want to hear the the natural sounds of the graveyard and church bells and things like that. I don't want to hear traffic and weed whackers, but that's how it goes sometimes in the city. So yeah, I was just talking about the history of travel. And maybe I'm missing a major part there, but I think, there we go, crow noises, that's proper. I think military is the primary reason for travel, other than migration and fleeing. I wouldn't really call that travel, but because before the 19th century there were taverns and inns. People were making pilgrimages, going all the way to Jerusalem, going to Santiago de Compostela, going to various cathedrals to see the bones of saints. And that may sound esoteric, but you would think that relatively poor people would be putting all of these resources into traveling a great distance to see some saint. But people really believed back then, deeply. It wasn't like just small part-time portion of their lives. It was every day they were praying and all this stuff, depending on their different faith, reading the Bible, looking at books of hours. Charles Spencer, 1857. Gotta watch out for the Spencers. There's this great store around here called Spencer and Mark's, and it's sort of like a retail giant, but that is a great grocery store. I really come to enjoy their food, and I think I'm not sure. I have to do some research on them, but I think Spencer and Mark's grocery might have some relation to the Spencers, of which Lady Diana was part. Samuel Lewin, Joseph Allen, William Brown. Awesome tree. These are some older stones here. Probably not going to be terribly readable. But anyway, back to pilgrimage. Sorry, one more here. Nice, the shaking hands. William Higgs, age 94. 1931, that's impressive. Sorry, that's a little blacked out. There you go. Charles Trosby, 1906, on the hill. It's a blacked out because of the way there's so much sky. Go down a little bit because those are cool looking up there. So yeah, the practicalities of pilgrimage were healthcare. It was related to healthcare. They were going for divine intervention. They had a serious problem. Could have been non-health related. That's possible too. They needed intervention for financial reasons or personal reasons, revenge even, dare I say it. Because that was even common back in Rome, where they would go, wind kick up. Kind of beautiful grasslands out here. Back in ancient Rome, they would go to some shrine or even a bath or hot spring. It's one of the more fascinating things I've seen at different ancient Roman sites. If you ever go to one, look out for this, because they're super rare, but they do exist. And if they find them at a Roman site, they'll put them in the little adjoining museum. And there's probably a name for them. I can't think of it right now, but they're basically curses. They would scratch curses on little lead sheets and throw them into the water and probably get charged a fee. Harriet Berry or Perry, John Shillock, and also another John Shillock, separate John Shillock. So yeah, they had a grievance with somebody because they stole something or they injured them in some way. They would curse them formally, and by writing it, having it written, because probably a lot of them were not literate, getting it written onto one of these sheets, they would fold it up and toss it into the baths or the well or the hole. And then, they find these curse sheets later on and translate them. And so that's how they know who they're cursing and why. So they're really great artifacts. And I'd never heard of them till, I went to Aquincumi or Aquincum. I can't think of the exact name, how it's pronounced, but it's the Roman settlement in Budapest. It's really great. It's not quite Pompeii, but it's not that different either. It's quite a large area of foundation stones. Of course, they weren't hit with a volcano. They were just corroded over time. In any case, they had some of those curse sheets. Again, I don't know what their formal name is. I'm forgetting. William Joseph Pinchbeck Pickering. That's quite a name. Let me get down on that so it's not shaded. 1901. I am enjoying this now that I can't hear the damn weed whackers. I just love the quality of light and shade in here. So yeah, there's also the statue of Thomas Cook in front of the train station. That's actually how I first got turned on to the fact that he was based in this town. So I started looking it up, and it all kind of came together, that the fact that he's in the cemetery that I saw. So all right, well, I'm gonna go do this. But so yeah, Leicester, quite a town. So the other big thing that's here, which I'll have a separate video on, of course, is Richard III. And I don't know which one I'm going to put out first. Probably you'll have seen the Richard III one first, because I tend to release them in the order that I make them. And I did do that one yesterday. The Richard III Visitor Center, and then the cathedral where his body is actually kept now. So, little history of tourism, Thomas Cook himself. There's other sites in town. I've got a little brochure. I'm going to go maybe check out one or two other sites, but I think the grave and the statue are probably the main things to see. So, in any case, I'm off to Nottingham today, so I'm going to go back and just extract this and recharge, take a shower, and then take the train to Nottingham, which is only about a half an hour and not very expensive compared to some others. That's the other thing, it was, I better just finish the story about Leicester. So the reason I came up here was just to explore this area, I guess Eastern Midlands or something like that. The train is the EMR, the Eastern Midlands Railway. Anyway, it's about an hour by train north of London. And it was damn expensive. It was like £75, which is pushing $100 for a round trip train. So I had to look up all the other train journeys, and most of them are about 25 to the surrounding towns like Birmingham and Nottingham and other various places. But as you start to go further, it gets more expensive. And so there's no way I'm going in and out of London. I came up once and I'm going back when I leave. But yeah, so it's just the fact that trains are a little prohibitively expensive that really, that adds up a lot. I'm not spending $50 a day on train rides and then another $50 in whatever town I'm visiting. Gets to be a bit much. So nevertheless, I think this staying up here has been much more affordable than staying in London. I'm getting a much nicer hotel for a third the price. Very comfortable, very quiet. So I'm sleeping like a baby. I'm over here by the train tracks now. In loving memory of Sarah, beloved wife of Joseph, 1899. Maybe we'll see a train go by. An EMR, an Eastern Midlands Railway. So yeah, you know, if this were a little village in London, it would be top dollar. People would be flocking here. It's a great little town. It has so many historic buildings and it's so well kept. But because it's remote and because it's got a lot of rough folks walking around, it's a little, you know, it feels a little dodgy. Henry Bevins, I like this one. 1900. It's just got a nice marbly color. Wife of the above died 1897. More over here. This is really clear. High contrast on this one here. James Wesley, 1918. 74 years, I would say World War I, but too old. Just happened to die at the end of the war. Here comes the train, I think. No, oh, it's just traffic noises. Too bad. In any case, forget what I was saying. Oh, yeah, just, you know. Interesting. Owen Jones. But no, I already saw the official grave of Owen Jones. That's just somebody with a similar name, 1924. Probably a very common name. Joseph Moore Newton. So yeah, you know, I wanted to just sort of promote Leicester as a place to stay, place to explore. I'm here for a whole week. But it's definitely worth a day just to see the Richard III stuff. And if you want access to some of these other places, then I think it's a great place to stay. And even though the sidewalks fold up at 6 p.m. for the most part, I mean, the restaurants and bars stay open. Abraham Embro, 1908. So yeah, it's worth a check, and it's so much cheaper than London, ultimately, even with the added cost of the train ticket. Especially if you're staying for a week, I can justify, you know, $100 for a train ticket. If I was spending $100 just to come up for the day, well, now you're shaving that off the cost of your hotel. William Sykes, 1824 to 1887. Clara, wife of Charles Blakesley. Yeah, worth a consideration because I'm hitting other towns in the area. We'll see where I end up. So I get a little reluctant with my ambition sometimes, and I'm like, you know, like yesterday, I'm like, let me just stay in Leicester here. I needed to go food shopping, needed to just relax and see some of the local stuff. But I've exhausted the town, and it's time to head out. So we'll see where I end up this week. Thanks for watching.